Winning cures everything. Now for your hosts, Gary and Chris.
Welcome in, Winning Cures Everything. It is the Sunday, November 14th edition of the show. College football recap reaction show for week 11. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And whoo boy, do we have some things to discuss. Ball Python Love is already in the chat, and we like to see it. We like to see it. Man, we had some whoppers yesterday. We had some good stuff. Only 4 ranked teams lost. But it did feel like it was chaos throughout the sport, and we're going to break it all down. Let me go ahead and get the rundown out of the way so that we can discuss everything that we need to discuss. WinningCuresEverything.com is the website. Go and check that out, of course. It's got everything you need to know about us. All of our shows, all the different shows that we appear on, as well as these. And you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Like the video for us. Share it out. Tell your friends. Jump into the chat. Brad's Crazy Life said he went 1-7 yesterday. Damn. Yeah, I'm with you. I did not have a great day. On the BetUS show, I went 3-1. So I'm still like above water as far as the season goes. But there are some of these teams that I cannot figure out to save my life. I got no idea. And I don't know why I continue to try and bet some of them. Right? Like, I bet on South Carolina yesterday, Chris. I mean, what the hell am I thinking? But at the same time,
they just had their Super Bowl. Why would you bet on a team that's looked bad all year that just had the biggest win in their life?
Because they have been able to run in basically every game.
You just have to stop with some of these number things and realize how emotions affect 18, 19, and 20-year-olds.
A lot. Hey,
when you just win your Super Bowl, what do you think they're doing that week? What do you think they did all last week after beating the hell out of Florida?
Probably partying, but here's the deal, though.
They got balls deep up in some strings.
My thought behind that was
at all.
They needed to win this one to be able to get to a bowl game. They've got Auburn next week. They got Clemson after that. They're sitting on 5 wins. I thought they'd be fired up, but alas, Missouri's defense actually held them to like less than 100 yards. It was ridiculous.
Well, yeah, they're hungover.
Yeah, it happens.
They have no testosterone left in their body after the Florida week.
We had a lot to discuss. By the way, BetUS College Football Show, I host it on Wednesdays and Thursdays. There's a link in the description. You can go follow that YouTube page. Chris hosts the SBR College Football Show, I believe, Mondays and Saturdays? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so knock those out. Of course, there's a link in the description for that as well. Leave a nice 5-star review on Apple Podcast. All that good stuff. We have got some games to break down. Before we do that, the show is brought to you by BetUS, where the game begins. They are America's premier sportsbook. You can find them at BetUS.com. Use the promo code NCAAF 2021. It's going to get you a 125% deposit bonus up to $2,500, and it is sportsbook exclusive. So you can bet on NFL, college football, college basketball, whatever you want to do. Go ahead and check all that junk out over at BetUS, where the game begins. Only 4 ranked teams lost yesterday. The Big 12, I initially thought with Oklahoma's loss would be out of the playoff picture because they had Oklahoma State down so low, but I don't think so. I think Oklahoma State is their lone option because Oklahoma State has been kind of dominant here lately. We'll talk about, kind of each one of these things as we go through. Some of the standings are definitely weird. Alabama, by virtue of A&M losing, could actually win the SEC West next week,
and Auburn losing. That helped.
Yeah, yes. Auburn losing and A&M losing means the Iron Bowl could be rendered moot for the SEC race, which I have no idea how this even could possibly happen. We are sitting. Everybody is cannibalizing themselves, and yet it is entirely possible that Alabama could lose both of the next 2 games against Arkansas and against Auburn. Arkansas looked all right, I guess, last night. They held their poise a little bit in Baton Rouge. We'll talk about that one. But again, every week, Chris, I bring up volatility and consistency, and we should have known that heading into November in a year of chaos, we were going to get some really weird results. You kind of feel like we should have seen this coming?
I mean, I don't know if we should have seen it coming. I mean, I didn't have a bad day yesterday, so I went 3-2 in my picks. Well, 3-2-1. I got to push.
Yeah,
and then I won 2 of my 4 underdogs straight up. So,
what were the 2 underdogs?
2 underdogs were Baylor and Utah State.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I remember you talking about those on the show the other day. That's right. That's right. The Baylor thing does not surprise me all that much. I think the Kansas thing kind of surprised me.
Baylor and Utah State were both the exact same odds to win, both plus 172. I thought that was strange that they were both the same odds. So not great. I guess the books thought they could both win.
I don't understand how they have not caught up to Utah State yet.
I don't know.
That team is 8-2.
What Blake Anderson was doing you and I were close enough to what he was doing at Arkansas State. We got to see him closer than most of the people in the country because, we're an hour and a half away from Arkansas State.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where he just took the 2 best wide receivers that were big and super athletic and went to Utah State and said, I'm going to run this offense with these 2 big hombres, and nobody out here is going to be able to cover them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need a quarterback that when he gets in trouble can just throw it to one of those guys and know that they're more athletic than anybody on the defense. They'll go get the football.
Yes. Yes, you're right. Ghost Dog 50 jumps in. James Cook, beast mode, 3 touchdowns. Yes. James Cook looked good. Let's see. Garibay for Heisman. Gassed Tennessee. Brad's crazy life. You're above water. I'm drowning. Yeah. I can understand it, brother. We've all had those weeks. Don't worry.
No, I mean, I've had a terrible season picking games. Yesterday I actually did good. So
I'm not bad on the season. I actually had it pulled up here. I was 37, 31, and 3 against the number this year on my official plays. And then I went 3-3-1 yesterday. So whatever that means. So yeah, I mean, I'm still above water. I'm still doing all right. Let's go ahead.
So he talked about somebody said Garibay for Heisman. I looked this up last night because I thought 62 in college has to be the record, right? No. Some bastard in 1921 kicked a 69-yarder. I don't know what they were using for footballs back then. There's 100% no doubt that guy also played linebacker and was taking horse steroids. There's just no doubt.
They inflated the ball with helium.
Well, I don't know what else they did. But that's some bullshit.
Let's go on and talk about these 2 right quick. Ryan McCracken said, "How did Samford give up that many points to Florida?" Normally, you would ask that the other way around. Samford's defense is really, really, really bad. They have been all year. They were 3-5 as an FCS team, so there was no reason why they should have ever been in the game against Florida. And yet, Florida's defense is bad with or without Todd Grantham. So,
well, they're not going to get better without Todd Grantham. I mean, it's not like they replaced Todd Grantham with a good defensive coordinator. If there was anybody on that defense that was any good at calling defenses, they wouldn't have been as bad as they were.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, I thought it was impressive that they were able to get 70 points on the board. But yeah, I mean, Samford only scored 10 points in the second half, so nothing crazy. Ethan Broom said, "Do you guys think Georgia starting Stetson Bennett will hurt them at any point?" No, I don't really think so. Stetson's been good. He's been really good.
Yeah,
what is he?
Fine.
He's 3rd in the country in efficiency. And he can actually put a little touch on the ball deep. He's not great, but they don't need him to be great.
That's right.
And they've also got this whole situation shaping up where a couple of years ago, Alabama was able to go from Tua to Jalen in the SEC championship game. The year before that, they were able to go from Jalen to Tua. If you need somebody to come in and be able to sling the rock around, then you got it.
They're not, but they're just not going to need that.
I don't think they're going to need it.
They're not going to be in a game. He's been fine. He's been better than fine. He's been really good. That team has a ton of talent around him, protecting him as well. He's okay. He's not going to be a problem.
Yes, right? Stetson, I don't think is going to be a problem. Last year, I don't think he was ready for this.
Any team that can come close to scoring on them, their defense is so flawed that it won't matter.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And the only team I'm thinking of in that scenario is Ohio State.
I tend to agree.
Because nobody else has an offense that I think is anywhere close to good enough to give Georgia a threat right now. Ohio State does, and Ohio State's defense is hot garbage. Georgia won't punt that whole day.
Yeah. Let's see. Ghost Dog said Stetson Bennett success based on the offensive line.
And some of those freakish skill players they've got around there. I mean, they've got
a bunch of dudes.
5 stars on. They don't have a 3-star touching the field. That's why you're not worried. They're okay. He's not going to be in any trouble at all. And the defense, like they just gave up 17 points. That's the most points they've ever given up for the year.
Yes.
If you can't get to 20 and win, then I don't know what we're talking about.
DJ is bottom 3 in accuracy. Dabo can't adjust the play calls, says Ryan McCracken.
So I didn't realize that until somebody tweeted me yesterday. He was like, is DJ the worst Power 5 quarterback in the country? And I was like, no, surely not. Like there's a quarterback for Vanderbilt out there that I don't even know his name. It's got to be worse, right?
DJ's pretty bad.
And then I saw DJ's numbers against UConn because I just saw they had a bunch of points and I just assumed, all right, finally the offense is looking good. Man, he was not good at all, even against UConn.
I will tell you what happened to him, okay? Because last year he was perfectly fine, had no real issues. You did not see a ton of a drop-off, at least with the offense last year against in
the two games they played.
The loss to Notre Dame that they had last year was because they had so many guys out on defense. That's bottom line. Right. When they got their defensive guys back, you saw what happened in the SEC championship game. But DJ this year, because the offensive line is so bad, against Georgia, he immediately, you can watch quarterbacks do this. They will actually degrade because if they don't trust their offensive line, they get happy feet. They start throwing the ball too early. They run with it too much. It's a disaster if you don't have a good offensive line, and that's their issue right now. Like, he doesn't trust them.
But do you think some of that is these teams now realize he's really not a threat? Like last year, when he came in against Notre Dame, like Notre Dame treated him like
Trevor
Lawrence.
Yeah.
Like they were like, we've got to, play back. We can't let him beat us kind of thing, when really he was never a threat to beat you, but you didn't know that. And so the style of defense they played against him was basically the same as they would have played for Trevor, which allowed him to make more plays because they kind of played a little scared. And now there's not a defense in the country that's afraid of him, and so they just attack him and say, all right.
So here's the thing. They don't have to attack him like very often at all. Like you have to bring pressure every now and then because there's already so much mental damage there that he's going to think that there's pressure coming on every play. So he's going to hurry every throw.
Well, but here's the issue though. It's not just that. He's not doing a very good job of seeing the pressure. He's not doing a very good job of adjusting to the pressure. So you don't have to bring it all the time, but when you bring it, he didn't know how to adjust the line to pick it up. He didn't know how to do any of that stuff. All of these things that high school quarterbacks are coming into college looking like Peyton Manning looked. Now, I'm not talking about as good as Peyton, but being able to read defenses because offenses in high school now look like offenses did in the pros years ago.
Yes.
It's all trickled down so much that you have the ability to see these things at a much younger age. He does not. He didn't learn it in high school. Dabo and them aren't smart enough to teach it to him in college. He's not going to get better at that, by the way.
Yes. No, you're 100% right. 100% right. Jumping in on some of these comments before we hit our first game, of course. Let's see. Ghost Dog said Dabo fell in love with the camera and the microphone. Larry Pilgrim said, late to the party here. You are not late to the party. We hadn't even started the breakdowns yet.
Hey, that thing about Dabo and the camera, listen, that's exactly what happened to O, by the way.
Yeah.
Coach O became a rock star, and he enjoys being a rock star better than being a great coach. And he stopped doing all the things that made him a great coach, and he lost his job for it. Dabo, that is exactly what happened to O, and Dabo's doing the same thing. Dabo likes being a star.
Hey, okay? you start doing these kind of seasons, yeah. Here's the issue though. Clemson, they beat Wake next week. All you need is Wake to lose to Boston College, and you're back in the ACC title game.
That's not happening.
I don't think it is either.
That's not happening. They might beat Wake, but I don't see that. Wake is there's no way on earth they're going to hang with Wake scoring. There's just no.
There's absolutely no way. NC State at least had the threat, right?
Unless Hartman gets hurt, unless Clemson takes him out of the game, that's their only choice. That's their only option.
Yeah. Let's see. Larry said, no timer in your head, knowing where your receivers are. DJ needs to be developed. Agreed. The thing that needs to be developed is the offensive line. And he needs an entire offseason with a good offensive line.
Hang on. All of this stems from the fact that Dabo is a product of hiring great OCs and having a great DC that have carried his ass. He's lost all the good OCs, and now he's stuck with somebody that nobody wants as their head coach. And that's just who he is. And he's just got to figure out, am I going to fire this guy and hire another guy, or can we get this thing together? But Dabo's supposed to be a guy to figure this thing out.
The worst thing that could happen for them is that they went out and end up in like a New Year's Six game or whatever, because then he will think that there's nothing wrong. But
hang on now. Whoa. With their resume, you think they're deserving of a New Year's Six game?
If they win the ACC championship, then
they won't win. They need Wake Forest to lose 2 more games. They need to beat Wake, and they need Wake to lose again. Them winning out ain't getting it to them. They're not doing that, Gary. That's just not happening.
I'm with you. I'm just, there is the option, right? Because Wake plays at BC to close out the season, and Phil Dracovic is back, and he looked awesome yesterday. So you never know what's going to happen in that game. It's going to be kind of tough anyway. Texas ran Charlie Strong out of town, and you lose to Kansas. Wow. Well, here's the deal. Charlie Strong lost to Kansas too, so, He
didn't lose in Austin, though.
No, he did not. That has never happened. We're going to talk about these. Let's go ahead and jump into the first game on the board here in Baylor. A 27-14 winner over Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley, quit your bitching, man. What are you?
Such a baby. I swear to God, if all the rumors are true, which I don't think there's an inkling of truth to them, by the way, if all the rumors are true and he ends up being the next LSU head coach, I'm going to be furious.
I could understand it.
It's not because he's not a good coach. It's because I don't think he's a good person. Yeah. I think this guy's a piece of trash. It gets so frustrating listening to him complain like they don't get the benefit of the doubt all the time. And what does it matter if you lose by 10 or by 13? Forget the code. The code went out the door forever. He wants to talk about code when it benefits him or hurts him. He doesn't ever want to talk about it when it's him doing something shitty, not to a school, not to another opponent or another grown man coach across the field. No, but when the person in power, is doing it to a kid that has no power in the situation. That's my problem with Lincoln Riley. His hypocrisy knows no bound.
But by the way,
and I'm sick of it.
Those that don't know what Chris is talking about, Chandler Morris, who is now starting for TCU because of Max Duggan's injury, Chandler Morris was a quarterback at Oklahoma, and he wanted to transfer to TCU, and Lincoln tried everything he could to block it until the media just absolutely crucified him, and then obviously he allowed the waiver to go through, whatever. It would have been approved.
That's the problem. 80% of Oklahoma's recruit that came in last year were all transfers. So he had no problem taking other kids' transfers, but you want to leave his program. Oh, no. And he will tell you the difference is well, I didn't take kids from in conference. That's because you took nothing but defensive players, and your conference doesn't play a whole hell of a lot of defense.
True. 100%.
You're a piece of crap. You're a hypocrite, and I don't want it.
Caleb Williams yesterday, 10 out of 19, 146 yards and 2 interceptions. They ended up pulling him for Spencer Rattler. And
I think he got hurt in that game.
Did he get hurt?
He was limping around after a couple of plays. I wondered, they never really said, did he bench him because they didn't think he was getting it done?
Or maybe he just didn't have enough. Yeah, he didn't have enough left.
I think he needed to walk something off because it was a leg injury. He was limping a little bit. And I think they realized, okay, if his wheels aren't there, we need to let him sit for a minute. They threw Spencer in. Spencer almost threw a pick his very first play. And I just thought that would have been just the icing on the damn cake right there. That dumb bastard.
Spencer went 4 out of 6 for 36 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Caleb Williams, 10 rushes for 17 yards and 1 touchdown. Baylor locked him up. 28 carries for 78 yards. For Oklahoma on the ground, that you don't typically see that. Oklahoma only had 260 yards, and this is now 3 straight years that Dave Aranda's defense has been able to lock up Lincoln Riley. And I can't imagine what it's going to be like when Oklahoma gets into the SEC. Larry Pilgrim jumped in. He said, I was thinking about Riley leaving Oklahoma, and it made no sense. Then I thought, once Oklahoma gets to the SEC, who would you rather be the coach of? I would rather be at LSU.
Well, yeah. No, I think almost everybody nationally agrees with that, except for people kind of around the Big 12, propaganda machine. LSU's basically won 3 national championships, made it to 4 with 3 different coaches over 20 years. And 2 of those coaches are widely seen as incompetent. It's really hard to not think, if you're a competent coach, I can go win at LSU.
Yes, 100%. Derek Miller said he was throwing foolish interceptions. Spencer Rattler, good arm, no leader. Ball Python Love said, can I promote something? Hey, jump in. Promote whatever you want to promote, brother. It is all good. Which, by the way, Ball Python Love is starting a YouTube channel, or has started a YouTube channel. Go and check him out. Good dude, good stuff over there. We promote and encourage anybody that is starting out in this crazy sports media world. So go and check him out. Do him a favor. Baylor, 413 yards of total offense. They only had 117 yards passing. And what Oklahoma has been pretty good at this season was stopping the run. Well, Baylor had 296 yards on the ground. Jerry Bohannon, 9 attempts for 107 yards. Smith had 20 attempts for 148 yards. They were awesome. This was a perfect game plan. Dave Aranda doing his thing on defense, locking down Lincoln Riley's offense. They couldn't do anything. This is crazy. I mean, Derek Miller said it was a matter of time for Oklahoma to lose. They were flirting with defeat. And now they still have Iowa State, who is going to be fired up. Which, by the way, Iowa State, perfect example. Let's see. I don't know what has happened.
Your mic completely cut out.
I see this. It popped up on the thing.
All right, you're back now.
All right, so I'm good now. All right, so what I was flirting with disaster. Okay, it just switched again. I don't know what the hell's happening.
The IT guy.
I am the IT
being
guy.
The dummy of the show.
This is
do whatever the hell you want, and nobody can blame you because you're a moron.
All right, I think I'm good now. I think I'm okay. Microphone. All right. And speaker. All right. Now we should be fine. It looks like it's still coming through. Good Lord. Have you got me now?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody else can or not, but I can.
We'll see.
And I don't know if they can hear us.
Well, I'm sure if everybody can jump into the chat and let us know if you can hear me, that would be wonderful. Sparta said cut out again. Larry Pilgrim said audio. And Justin said the person that wants to make a pitch is sabotaging. Ball Python Love said I got Chris this Thursday live on my channel. Can't wait. All right. So Neosaur L said we can. Okay, good. Let's dive back into this breakdown here. So the discussion here was Oklahoma flirting with disaster. And I thought because they had kind of turned the corner with Caleb Williams on offense, they would be able to do something here. They still have Iowa State and Oklahoma State left. That's going to be a problem. I mean, they are not good enough to really be able to beat those states. Like, they can beat them, but the other team will have to make mistakes. They can't beat them straight up.
They can beat Oklahoma State. I don't
know that they can beat Iowa State.
I think that game's at Oklahoma State, and I think Oklahoma State's going to be favored. I think they're going to be favored by like a touchdown. I think they're going to beat them up pretty bad too.
Iowa State, what I was saying is Iowa State is the perfect example of a team that cannot afford to look ahead, and yet they've been caught doing it multiple times this year. They are not talented enough to just beat teams, like without
Correct.
showing up 100% on that day. They just lost to Texas Tech yesterday. Should have seen it coming because they've got Oklahoma next week. Like, and it would not surprise me. Larry Pilgrim said Oklahoma State can copy Baylor's game defensively. 100%, yes, they can. Also, this is going to be insane. Iowa State can do this defensively to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think Iowa State can. I question Iowa State's. Well, see, here's the thing: that what Iowa State does great on offense is run the football. So that that if they can copy this game plan verbatim. I trust him to run the football more than I trust Brock Purdy, but you and me have been this way for the last 3 years with him. You trust him more than I do. He shows up in big games and he falls apart in big games. They need him to not screw this thing up, not turn the ball over.
It's going to be insane next year. It's just insane. Derek Miller, I know this is a college network. Please, Pittsburgh Steelers, don't lose to the Detroit Lions. Great show, guys. No Big Ben today. So
I hope they lose. Listen, for the first time in a long time, somebody just lost their starting quarterback and the line didn't move at all. Well, I say that it happened. The last time this happened was this year when Tua went down and the line didn't move at all.
Line didn't move. That's the way it goes.
There's Jim John, quarterback play out there in the NFL right now.
Yes, there is. Jim John said we can hear. That is certainly good. All right, so my question here was, or my only two notes were, WTF is Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley bitching.
Oklahoma is exactly what we thought they were. It's what, at least I would tell you this, for all the tomfoolery that the committee did and all of the problems that I have with the committee, they got Oklahoma right. And they realized this is an undefeated team that we just know doesn't deserve to be undefeated. They have scraped by beating bad teams, and they look bad doing it. Look at the miracle that it took to beat Texas, and now look at the shit team that Texas is.
Yeah, Texas. We're going to talk about Texas in a minute.
But you see what I'm saying?
Like, I know what you're talking about.
When you look at their resume, they don't have a single good win on them. They got 8 of them, 9 of them, but they don't have a single good one on there.
Yeah, that's yes, you're 100% right. I mean, there's not a good one. The Nebraska win, like, we know it was a tough win. Nebraska's played everybody tough, all that, but Nebraska also only has 3 wins on the season. So, like,
yeah.
I mean, what are we talking about here? Let's move to the next one and write down my time here. Ole Miss 29, Texas A&M 19, and I didn't see this one coming. I did not see it coming at all. Ole Miss, 504 yards of total offense on that A&M defense, and 247 passing yards, 257 rushing yards, and it was not Matt Corral running the football. Matt Corral had 10 rushing attempts for -5 yards. Okay, Ely had 152 yards rushing. Parrish had 58 yards rushing. Snoop Connor had 55 yards rushing. I don't know what to even make of this. My note on this was, is the Ole Miss defense good? Like, I didn't put down a ton of notes on these. I wanted to kind of just wing it as I go. But I don't understand Ole Miss. Like, I love what Kiffin is doing there, but this defense had been really bad, except they don't give up points. Like, I cannot figure. Maybe there is something to a defense that just doesn't give up points. Like, it's the bend but don't break mentality. And what DJ Durkin has done with that team is impressive. Now, I will say this. This is the first time in, let's see, it was 3 years before this where they had a different defensive coordinator every season. And then they did not get an offseason with DJ Durkin last year, really.
That's right.
Now, this year, they get their first continuous defensive coordinator. DJ Durkin was really, really good before he went to Maryland, right? He got the head coaching job because he was a really good defensive coordinator and a really good recruiter. And now he's down at Ole Miss with Kiffin.
He was good at Maryland.
Yeah, no, he was okay. They were never great on the defensive side of the ball at all.
Look at the talent that they had, Gary.
I understand.
You only look at numbers and you stop thinking about the guys that are playing football.
Look
Those
at what
dudes at Maryland trying to compete against Texas and Oklahoma or Ohio State and those big offenses. Are you kidding me?
Agreed. I don't think DJ Durkin was a great head coach. I think he is a great defensive coordinator, and he's showing it again and again, right? Like, it's typically the numbers that you put up between the 20s will equate to points typically. But week in and week out, they have been able to stop people from scoring once they get down there. And it was the same thing here. Ole
Miss's problem right now on offense, you asked, are they good? Yes, they're great for what they are and what they have. You're talking about a team that only has 2 of their starting 5 offensive linemen. We always give everybody credit for injuries, but nobody seems to be giving Ole Miss credit for what they're doing with the injury problem. They don't have a single skill player starting right now that was a starter week 1.
Well, so Drummond came back last night, and he's
okay. Drummond did come back last night. That's right. Going into last night, the last couple of weeks though, they've been doing it without a single skill player on offense starting, and with only 2 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. So is their offense good? Yes, they're good. They've got one dude that's carrying them in a way that nobody else outside of one other guy, my Malik, is doing it. That's it.
It was really
and they're intentionally not running Corral right now because of the ankle problems.
Yeah,
that is systematic. The reason it's -10 rushing yards is because college football doesn't know how to keep stats. It's
the sacks. Yeah, sack adjusted rushing. So their rushing yards were 257. Sack adjusted was 262. So you look at what they did in the red zone, 4 out of 6. Texas A&M 3 out of 3 in the red zone. The issue is they only got into the red zone 3 times. The interceptions certainly hurt Texas A&M late because I thought they had the momentum. I thought they were ready to roll in that fourth quarter, and they did not. They were not. I was impressed. Ole Miss went 0 for 3 on 4th down, and there were a couple of spots. I know one specifically where Kiffin went for so he did the field goal attempt, but it was a fake field goal. And were you watching this play?
Yep.
I'm going to talk about. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Ole Miss. I like Texas A&M. I'm not thrown off of either team by this, but the kid looking at the referee and getting pissed that he didn't get the first down, and the ref like asking him for the ball, and the kid taking the ball and doing it on the other side of him and dropping it in front of the referee really irked me. I was so irritated by that for some reason.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't know why.
You're talking about a punter, okay, that's never touched football before in his life outside of when he gets to punt the football or holding the snap. All right, that kid doesn't know what the hell he's doing to begin with.
Yeah.
Let's ignore that. Like him making the mistake to not lower his shoulder and try to get any forward progress because he was about inches away from getting it. Like that, he's a punter. What do you expect? The problem is, I love going for it. You know that. Like I've said it before. The worst thing anybody could ever do is let me call offensive plays or put me at the third base coach at baseball because I'm sending them. I'm sending them every time. I don't care of the score. Well, this time I care about the score. They haven't really moved the ball a lot on you. They haven't scored on you at all. And if you kick the field goal, you make it an 8-point game, which means they have to score twice. They have to, get the touchdown, which you haven't given up a lot of, and then they have to get the 2-point conversion, and that only ties you.
Yes.
There's no reason to go for it there. Just no reason at all mathematically to go for it there. I can't believe the analytics would tell you to do that. I just don't believe. And I'm the guy that wants to go for it no matter what the numbers say.
Yeah. I think some of the stuff that he calls I don't get, but I'm
not an analytic guy, but I'm pretty damn good at math.
I will tell you this.
I know that if I make you have to get into the end zone twice, that's got to be more important than me scoring a touchdown and making you score a touchdown and a field goal later. Like I just feel like get it to 8 and that's much safer.
Yes. I thought when I saw it, like when he took out the kicking team, I thought, wow, this is impressive. This is he's growing up a little bit. Like it's not that Kiffin is not
growing up. I don't even think that's growing up.
I think it was just a smart football play.
Yes, right? Getting it to 8 points is a major, major deal.
Now, on the other side of this, going for it on these 4th downs shows his offense that he trusts them. And they are willing to run through a brick wall for him because they believe that he believes that they can get that first down every single time.
I don't think that matters. I just don't. I just don't think
it
matters at all.
Maybe it doesn't. Like, I know this. All those players want to go for it. They want to do it.
Yes.
So,
yes, Matt Corral is a winner. Matt Corral is a warrior god, and Matt Corral wants the ball in his hands at all times. He's the best player in college football. That all makes sense, okay? But that has nothing to do with Lane's trust in them.
I think they all know that Lane trusts him anyway, so it is what it is. Isaiah Spiller, by the way, 15 carries for 41 yards. A-Chain had 12 carries for 110. I was a little surprised at that.
It's only a matter of time before DJ Jerkin gets his defense going.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. They got them going yesterday. Had them going yesterday. The two interceptions, by the way.
I would tell you this is why Lane was number one on my list for wanting to be my coach at LSU. This is why he's number one, by the way.
This helps him. This helps him very much so.
But I still don't think it matters because I think the president's going to be too involved in the thing and hit him on Lane.
I get it. Derek Miller said, I feel Cincinnati is next. SMU win was big. Cincinnati wins that game. They should be mentioned at least. And then Ghost Talk said Cincinnati might lose their coach. I don't even have the Cincinnati game down, but we'll hit.
We shouldn't.
Yeah, we'll hit a few things at the end of the show. Next game on the board here, which and congrats to Ole Miss because defense looked great. Got those two interceptions. It completely flipped the game in the fourth quarter. So, Kansas 57, Texas 56. Post game win expectancy Texas 72%. Names that I wrote down: quarterback Jalen Daniels, who was a backup for Kansas. Kind of awesome. Because Jason Bean had been doing this thing and he was injured. But Jalen Daniels, 21 out of 30, 202 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kansas was 11 of 17 on third down, my friend. Texas could not stop them. Unbelievable. Lance Leipold, cheers to him because this Kansas program has been competent this year. They don't look like the complete disaster. There are games where they have not looked great, right? I get it. But when you are trying to rebuild the foundation of a program, you're going to have those every now and then. But in the big games, against Oklahoma, against Texas, where you're wanting to make a name for yourself, they have done that in both games. They won one of them, they lost one of them, but they looked good in both, and they looked respectable, and they looked like there is something to build on at Kansas, and I love it. I love it.
There's a team in the state of Texas looking for a coach right now, and if I was them, I'd give this guy a call.
Yeah.
It's not just because of this game, by the way, how they played against Oklahoma. Look at this roster. Look at how bad they are. And look talent-wise. And look how well they play, how well they're coached. They don't make mistakes. They don't turn the ball over. They don't get penalties. They don't do anything to beat themselves. They're just not good at football because they just don't have the dudes to do it. They're just nothing but 1- and 2-star guys that nobody else wanted. They're just complete rejects of the region. If he can do it with them, do you think he could do it with your 3- and 4-star guys from the city of Dallas?
I would think so.
100%. I do too. But we love this guy at Buffalo. We thought he was an unbelievable coach. I didn't think he could do what he's doing at Kansas because I just thought that was an unwinnable job. And I mean, he hasn't done anything great other than have a couple of good moral victories. But then this,
a good coach can win anywhere.
This is huge.
Yes, 100%. The biggest thing in this game was Texas lost 4 turnovers in the game. Kansas did not lose any. Texas 10 penalties for 97 yards. Kansas 4 for 30. Those that watched in overtime know that the penalty for spinning the football when you scored a touchdown in overtime gave Kansas a 12.5-yard field to score their touchdown. And then Lance said, you know what? This defense right now for Texas is as soft as a wet paper towel. Like, we are going to go for 2 and get this win here. And Jared Casey, if you hadn't seen the video of Jared Casey's parents celebrating when he caught that 2-point conversion, I love those videos. I love them. I loved it when Seth Small's family was when he kicked the field goal against Alabama. I love all of them. Show me all those with the parents celebrating and the girlfriends and everybody celebrating when their family member is the one that scores to win the ball game. I love that shit. So, Kansas, they didn't have as many yards as Texas, but you don't have to when you get 4 turnovers. Like,
you count yards or points.
You certainly count points, my friend. You certainly count points. But that's the reason why the post-game win expectancy for Texas was 72%, right? You cut out the turnovers, which are typically a fluke thing. And I know me and you have discussed this ad nauseum about turnover. You can't take the turnovers out of the game. which completely understood. But the reason why those numbers are like that is because turnovers are a partly a luck factor, right? And in this situation, the ball bounced the correct way for Kansas 4 times. It never bounced the right way for Texas, and Texas still should have won.
If you constantly throw the ball to the other team, that's not luck. That's bad quarterback play. If you constantly are dropping the football, that's not luck. That's not holding on to the football.
Yes.
Some guys just turn the ball over and some guys don't. That's not luck. It can be put into an algorithm. People just choose not to because it's hard to do. I don't want to put another data point in there because then it messes up my opinion of what I think of this team. Either count all the data or none of the data. That's why I don't like you data guys. You can't be trusted.
Bijan Robinson, 14 carries for 70 yards. Didn't break 100 here.
That's amazing, by the way.
Yes.
That's the stat of the game. That's it. That's the list. If Bijan goes off, you can't stop this. They're really hard to stop this Texas team. If you bottle him up, their offense goes to nothing.
Yes. Yes. It's unbelievable. Xavier Worthy did show out. Marcus Washington showed out as well. Xavier Worthy, 14 receptions, 152 yards, 3 touchdowns. Marcus Washington, 5 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. Casey Thompson was 30 out of 43, 358 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 pick. They did have Hudson Card in there for a little bit, 3 out of 5, 52 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I mean, he threw the ball 5 times and had a touchdown and a pick in there. Like, it blows my mind. So Jalen Daniels was really good throwing the football. I already brought his numbers up, but he also ran the ball 11 times for 45 yards. Devin Neal for the Jayhawks, 24 carries, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, this Texas defense is – so they brought in Pete, and I forget the guy's last name, the guy from Washington that was supposedly the mastermind behind, like, those Washington defenses under Chris Peterson, right? Jimmy Lake was never the mastermind on defense. He was the guy that was able to go and get players. Like, he was supposed to be the culture guy, the guy that really was doing things, which obviously we've seen that has failed miserably at Washington. But they brought him in, and I thought, okay, well, at least now they've got, like, an adult in the room on defense. And the culture issue at Texas, and we've seen this at other programs before. I'm not ready to write Sark off because it does take a little bit of time when you have had a crap culture instilled at a program for a long, long time. You got to take an L like this one to be able to get the funk out, right? So it is entirely possible that they come out and look incredibly better next year or the year after that, whatever. I am curious. Like, I don't want – Texas is not down forever. It's not whatever. They will find a way to bounce back at some point. It won't be this season. They ain't going to a bowl game this year. They are now 4-6. There ain't no way they are winning their last 2 ball games, which, by the way, I'm looking up right now. They've got at West Virginia and they got Kansas State. I think they probably lose both of them. This team is bare. Like, they're bad. So,
Man, if they lose them both.
Think about it. Like,
hey, so let me ask you this question. This is an honest question, okay? Look at Sark's last couple of jobs outside of Alabama, okay?
Okay.
What about him says he's a good culture builder?
There's nothing. There's nothing that says that.
So you just so why do you think he's going to be capable of putting together a good culture and be a good culture?
I never said that he would be capable of doing that. I'm saying that sometimes, I'm not saying that they are down forever. I'm saying that sometimes when you are trying to reestablish a culture, or not reestablish, but when you're trying to establish a culture, it does take losses like this. It does take just a season of crap to be able to. But
he's never established a positive culture anywhere he's been.
I think what he did foundationally at Washington was okay.
Like, he recruited really well. And then he was there for 3 years. That you think he established a foundation in 3 years?
Well, he took over for Ty Willingham, who was like 0-12 before Sark went in there. Okay. So, like, he had to clear out the funk there as well, and eventually was getting them to bowl games every year, whatever, and it was good enough to get him the USC job, which I understand there was the connection there. I get that. But they wouldn't have hired him at USC if he wasn't, if he didn't show promise.
That's fine.
I don't think he's ever had to prove that he could really establish a culture, and he's going to have to prove it here. Like, he's going to have to show it. And I don't know. Larry said Sark couldn't pull it off at USC. Texas and USC are the exact same culture.
I agree.
Yeah. It does make you wonder. You hate to revisit the past and what Sark was fired for at USC.
I just also don't think he's a great offensive mind. When he has unbelievable elite talent, he seems to be a great play caller. Well, any dumbass can call plays at Alabama. Okay,
Agreed.
But all of the rest of the times, I don't think his offenses were anything to write home about. Or else they would have overlooked his problems.
I don't think offense is the problem at Texas right now. Like, there's obviously some things that they could clean up, but
offense was a problem Saturday night. I know they scored 50, but like turning over the ball and putting your team in harm's way all the time.
The fundamentals.
That's a problem.
The fundamentals are a problem. Ryan said losing to Kansas would drive anyone to drink. Yeah. Derek Miller said, I just knew he was going for 2. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Texas is terrible. And then finally, this one. Derek Miller said they have completely tuned him out. The players can't trust Texas's coach. Yeah, you're right. Nate jumps in, and this will be here. We'll start this off for the next game here. College game day at Ohio State. Seen this too many times. Snooze, said Nate Becerra. Yeah, I'm a little irritated about that. The Big Ten stuff. Like, we talked about this on Friday's show. We wanted UTSA or Montana. UAB got the win. UTSA got the win. That looks like a really good matchup. Like, UAB went on the road and beat Marshall. Seemed like that would be a good time to spotlight a G5 team that is really on the come up. I mean, they're 10-0 right now.
ESPN just doesn't want to do that. They want to only broadcast the halves. They want to show the world. And I think they made it clear on game day. They made it perfectly clear on game day this week. Enough people who are important and have opinions about how college football is ran openly said, if you're not in the Power 5, which is complete and utter horseshit, because the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big 12 are all complete trash programs right now, but for conferences from top to bottom. But if you're not in the Power 5, you don't belong. They openly said that, and not just one person said it. It came from 3 or 4 different people who most of the people, everybody in that committee room trusts and listens to and agrees with. So why would they do anything other than that? Why would they do anything other than support the propaganda that they're putting out?
Well, that's the whole reason why I said it on Friday, right? And we both didn't like it, but that was the most likely option was Michigan State and Ohio State, so long as both of them won, and they did. And now you've got a top 7.
You look at strength of schedule. In Cincinnati's strength of schedule, they've got 1 win over Notre Dame. No. If they beat SMU, that'll be better than almost any win anybody in the Pac-12 is going to have outside of Oregon going to Ohio State. That's it. The rest of Oregon's schedule is complete and utter dog shit.
Let's see. Right? So here's one of the main numbers, or one of the, not main, but one of the numbers that they bring up here is the strength of schedule in ESPN's FPI. Cincinnati is number 101, but Ohio State is number 63. So like,
stop. They make the FPI. This is the problem. Everyone says, well, they don't have any top 25 wins, but you make the top 25. You overload it with bullshit teams that don't deserve to be there, so it affects the end result. This is numbers, people manipulating numbers to get what they want, to make them give you the answer that they want.
Yes.
There's not a single team that has a strength of schedule in the ACC. You talk about Power 5. This is what I'm going to address. There's not a single team in the ACC that I have a strength of schedule harder than Cincinnati's. An entire Power 5 conference, 0 teams will have a strength of schedule stronger than Cincinnati's. 0. And if you give me numbers that say their schedule is harder, you're lying, and you're looking at numbers that are manipulated by the people that want to keep the G5 down.
I'm going to read you the FPI top 10 right quick, just very quickly. Georgia number 1, Alabama number 2, Ohio State 3, Michigan 4, Oklahoma 5, Pittsburgh 6, Notre Dame 7, Iowa State 8, Wisconsin 9, Clemson 10, and then Cincinnati 11 and Oklahoma State 12. I mean, that's that's all you got to see.
I don't know what name a good game. Hang on. Oklahoma's in there, right? You said Oklahoma.
Oklahoma at 5.
What out until they played Baylor? What good team have they played?
They haven't.
Look at their resume. Tell me a good team, not a great team, not an elite team, not a top 10 team. Tell me a good team, a top 25 team that they've played, a legit team that deserves to be in the top 25. That's a bullshit made up number.
Their strength of schedule is number 71. Their strength of record, which is what the average team would be able to do against that, they are number 12 in that regard. Pittsburgh, number 76 strength of schedule, number 21 strength of record. Cincinnati's strength of schedule is 101. Their strength of record, like what they were able to do against that schedule, is number 5. So Cincinnati should be a top 5 team. But
I just don't understand it. I know that we all think Alabama is the best team in the country or the second best team in the country. I know that people think that because they're Alabama and they put up big numbers, they put up big points. If you look at their resume, that's a team doesn't have a good win on the entire season. Not one good win on the entire season. They've played 2 super close games. Close games against trash-ass teams, and it took getting every call in the book for them to win the game. The SEC officials had to prop up the brand to protect them. It took that, and we're going to all say they're the second-best team in the country. Why? Because we know it. Why? Because, the people in Vegas says that they would be a 14-point. I'm tired of listening to the people in Vegas. You know what? They're wrong all the time.
Yeah. I think the Ole Miss win is looking a little more impressive.
You do?
Lately?
You think that? What about the A&M loss then? Because that's a 3-loss team that lost to Mississippi, State, and that lost to Arkansas.
Yeah. Yes. But that's all I'm saying is that
not a good win on the season, not a list, not a 1, but they're the number 2 team in the country. Why? Because Vegas says they'd be 14 points ahead of everybody else, and because we've seen them do it for the last 20 years, and so this is why.
I love it. Ball Python Love jumps in and said, tell everyone Chris. And Ryan McCracken said, Chris wants Miami back in the top 25. And then Derek Miller said, preach, Chris. I love it. I love it. All right, so let's dive into another Big Ten game right quick. This one was interesting yesterday morning. Michigan 21, Penn State 17. And, you start looking at some of these numbers. This was about as evenly played as you can get. This was a fantastic football game, and I'm going to tell you, I was worried. I'm not a Michigan fan, but I was worried for Harbaugh because it felt like they had control of this game. Penn State missed a field goal, and Michigan had multiple opportunities. They were up 14-6. They had 2 drives that they could have done something with. They moved it to about midfield and had to punt the ball back to Penn State. Penn State drove 8 plays, 30 yards, didn't score any points off of it, and then held Michigan to a 3-and-out. And then Michigan gave up a 15-play, 53-yard drive for a touchdown, and Penn State got the 2-point conversion. And on the next drive, 3 plays, -9 yards, and they fumbled the ball back to Penn State. Penn State was able to kick a field goal with under 6 minutes left in the ballgame. And I watched this, and I thought, is there anything on earth that is more predictable than Michigan fumbling or throwing an interception in a tight ball game late in the fourth quarter? And I thought, the only other thing would be, who am I thinking? Adrian Martinez. That would make sense. But same thing here because Michigan does this time and time again. They give up that field goal, and Michigan goes 6 plays, 75 yards in 2 minutes and 26 seconds to score a touchdown, and I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Like, so Penn State went for it on 4th down on the next drive. Michigan ran out the clock. 8 plays, 23 yards, 2 minutes and 51 seconds. Went into victory formation. Fabulous. Michigan closed out this game. They found a clutch gene, and now I am so psyched about what is to come for Michigan. They've got Maryland this week on the road, but then you got the matchup against Ohio State. That looks a lot more fun right now. Give me your thoughts here. I love this.
Thought it was a great game. If we want to take turnovers, out of all the numbers, Michigan's dominated every game on the schedule because they beat Michigan State if it wasn't for 2 fumbles in the red zone.
Yes.
This is why you can't take turnovers out of things, but neither here nor there. All the numbers guys want to say that, then we should have Michigan in the top 4 because the numbers say they should be undefeated, and the numbers say that if without these turnovers, they are the better team in every game they've played, and it's not close.
I mean, that's why the committee ranked them ahead of Michigan State last week.
But I thought they played a great game. I thought this game went exactly the way I thought. I thought it was going to be very hard to come by points. I thought it was going to be very hard to come by first downs, and it was. These teams played a kind of, they had drives that they could go on that they did well, but for the majority of the game, this game was played between the 40s, and not a lot happened. Good defense, really good defense. The offenses fought like hell, and Michigan, who I thought was the better team coming in, is the better team. And they won the football game. And I thought that was a big deal.
Yes.
I think if Michigan wins next week, you're talking about a 10-win season for Harbaugh.
Penn State.
An unbelievable year, by the way.
Yes, 100%. Now, Derek Miller does jump in, said Michigan tradition, you must beat Ohio State. Nothing else really matters. Tradition of Michigan football.
That's just insane.
Well,
that's just somebody who's insane.
But that's the point that they've gotten to, right? They have not beaten Ohio State under Harbaugh. That is the next step, right? They've done this before. They've won 10 games.
Yeah, but nobody else in the Big Ten has beaten them either.
True.
Like, at what point? Like, it would be different if they were losing games to Penn State or losing games to Wisconsin or Iowa. Like, if they were losing games to Michigan State, if they were losing other, like, 2 or 3 games a year in conference, but you can't beat them, then they would be having a different conversation. But the fact that they don't lose games all season almost every year, the fact that you can't beat them makes you just like everybody else in the fucking country.
Well, but here's the deal. They have lost to all of those teams Iowa, Purdue, Michigan State. Like, they have lost to those teams before, and Michigan has not beaten them in, a decade? I mean, longer? I mean, it's absurd. So it hadn't been a decade. It was whenever Fickell was the interim coach. That was the last time they won there. But Harbaugh has never beat them, and that's what everybody gets frustrated about, right? Like, I'm with you. I agree that you don't have to beat Ohio State to have a successful season. But
if he wins 10 games, it's an unbelievable, not a great, it's unbelievable.
Yes.
They had a losing record last year. This is an unbelievable turnaround.
Yes. Penn State, talking about them for just a second before we move to some more games here, because we'll have to start going quickly. Penn State played like they knew that they had to have this. They are now 6-4 on the season. They're 3-4 in the conference. They went 4 out of 6 on fourth down. Like, they played and knew that they had to find a way to win this ball game, and they did almost everything that they possibly could, and could not get it done in the end. Now, Penn State, sitting at 6-4, this team has Rutgers and at Michigan State left. More than likely, you're going to beat Rutgers and lose to Michigan State. That's my guess. They play at Michigan State on the last Saturday of the season. You go 7-5, like, no, Penn State was not good last year, but is that a good enough turnaround? Like, people are just fawning all over James Franklin, and you and I have talked about this. Like, there's still a 7-5 football team.
He was a big name for the LSU job before this collapse, and I told you when he was hot shit. I don't know why. I've never understood why his name always comes up as this god of football. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm not saying that he's a bad coach at all. He's a really good coach. I don't know why people always think he should be the guy to get the biggest job in the country, though.
I tend to agree. I think it's because everybody feels like he's attainable, right? Like, that's the only reason.
That's not what you want. Like, Jesus Christ.
Right.
I mean, it's literally like the only reason my wife married me is because, like, I was gettable.
You were gettable.
Like, she lowered her standards and said, "I'll take that."
Oh God, Nate,
this is not that's not a trophy.
Yeah.
All right.
No, Derek jumped in. He said, "My son played at Michigan. That's all that matters to these kids. Ohio State and Michigan, red and go blue."
I'm going to bet the week of that game, that's probably true.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet all of that's really true. And I'm going to bet the week after that game when they lose, I bet that's a huge, huge deal. And it really upsets them when they don't win. I'm going to bet all of those things are true. I'm also going to bet that when the season is over, if they finish with 10 wins, they go to a big-time bowl game and they win that game. I'm going to bet that's an amazing season that they're going to look back on fondly of.
Derek said, look up the tradition. I will say this. They do have it all over the locker room about beating the team from Ohio. Like, it is 365. Like, it's 24/7. Like, they are always thinking about Ohio State. But that doesn't mean that it is an unsuccessful year if they don't beat Ohio State. I'll just say that. Like, I think that they can have a successful season without getting that win because Ohio State is on a different level. They just are.
You think we do this show and we don't know the tradition? You think we haven't watched college football for almost 40 years? Because we disagree with the fact that one team, what you did 20 years ago was important, and those schools were really close to one another. One school has done this, and the other school has stayed where they are. Okay? So if your mountain, if your rival just happens to be one of the three juggernauts in college football over the last decade, that sucks. That sucks. And so you have to reconfigure your priorities. You have to refactor in and figure out what you're going to deem as successful or not. Not that you can't beat them, not that you can't ever compete with them, but there are only going to be few years where you're actually going to be able to do that. Because at some point in time, the tradition doesn't matter. The years don't matter. At some point in time, dudes that step on the field and go up against one another is all that's going to matter. And if you don't have the dudes and they have all of the dudes, if they're better at you at every position in the game, when you play the game, that's what's going to matter. And all of the tradition in the world, all the want to in the world isn't going to help you. So you have to reconfigure what happiness is, what success is.
Yes. The thing that completely switched this rivalry, by the way, and switched the Big Ten was bringing in Urban Meyer, bringing in an SEC mindset to Big Ten recruiting. Harbaugh is still at heart a Michigan guy. He has always been a Big Ten guy. There are unwritten rules that, there
are ACT scores that matter.
Well, that's true
what
too.
matters.
Hey, Brown Yeti said, Brown Yeti said, I would argue Alabama and Auburn are very similar, and Auburn has won and Michigan has not.
They're not similar. This is where that argument goes away. Auburn is doing the exact same thing. Every kid at Auburn could absolutely get in Alabama, and every kid at Alabama could absolutely get in Auburn. I have no dog in this fight. I don't care about the academics of these schools, but I know about them. I 100% am going to tell you that very few of the kids at Ohio State playing football right now would be accepted and get in at Michigan.
Derek said
that's what teams allow and what teams don't.
Derek said, Chris, that's why they went out and got Jim Harbaugh was to beat Ohio State.
He's not magic unless you're going to lower your standards at Michigan, which the school university has made clear they're not going to do. Jim Harbaugh's not magic. He's not a wizard. He can't do it.
We have talked about that on the show for a
not
long time.
Ever do it. That's not what I'm saying, that he will never be able to do it. But year in and year out, letting that be a contested rivalry, at some point in time, one team is recruiting up here and the other one is not. And it's not because they can't get guys. It's because the dudes going to Ohio State aren't ever going to be able to get into school at Michigan.
I can only imagine what the comments are going to be when we clip this.
I'm sure all the Ohio State fans are going to really love that. That's fine. I don't really care.
My concern is the Michigan fans.
They need to live in a different real. I didn't make the rules, okay? Dumb down your ACT scores and let all these dum-dums in, and we can play football, all right? I was a dum-dum. I was a moron, and I played football.
Oh, God.
My school, LSU, I will use them as an example. In 2019, when they were the greatest team that ever touched foot on college football, most of those kids wouldn't have gotten in Michigan. They just wouldn't have.
That's true. Derek said, trust me, Chris, that's all that matters. You win, Chris. All right, let's move to the SEC right quick. This was an interesting game yesterday. Mississippi State 43, Auburn 34. At one point in this game, Auburn led 28-3, and then at another point in this game, Mississippi State led 43-28. You and I were both wrong on this. I felt really right about it early, and this thing flipped on a dime very quickly. And as soon as Leach figured out something, and I did not watch it close enough. I'm going to have to go back and watch it today and at some point tomorrow to figure out what the hell they found in that Auburn defense. Auburn could not stop them at all. The fake that Auburn did in the fourth quarter when they were down 30 whatever it was to 28. I think it was 35, 28, 36 to 28 or whatever. They were down by 8, I think. At that point, they trotted out the punter, and rather than just, if you're going to go for it and you know that your defense can't stop them, wouldn't you rather have your offense on the field? Like,
They ran the exact same fake punt LSU ran last week. They saw LSU do it. This is what look, my boy at Winning Indiana football OC. I asked him, how do you guys draw up plays and stuff? He says that all we do is steal from everybody else. That's all they did. They saw LSU do this really creative thing, and they just thought, oh, we're just going to do that. We saw it last week. We'll try it this week. That was the most uncreative thing. Every team saw it last week, and every team saw, oh, if they come at you, stop that guy, but also don't let him throw the football because he's going to do the jump pass. They did exactly that, and this kid almost just picked it off. Like,
yeah, because he saw it too. It's
easy to stop now that you know that it's a thing.
Yes, the only way to do it is to surprise them. And when you are down in the fourth quarter and your defense can't stop them, you have to be expecting the fake. That's why it worked so well in the first quarter last week, but not in the fourth quarter this week, because they are almost expecting a fake at that point. Like, you know it is a possibility, because why in the hell would you punt the ball back? They're going to score from anywhere on the field. Why give them the opportunity? Just trot out Bo Nix and try something else. Like,
I don't think Brian Harsin has been outcoached in an entire game this year. This game, he got outcoached.
Oh, he was majorly outcoached. Will Rogers.
This is the first L on him. I don't think there was anything he could have done against A&M to win that game. I think A&M was better than them across the – A&M's defense bottled up that offense, and they just said, you're not scoring. And they didn't score. I don't think there was any coach in the country that was going to help them score. I think A&M's defense showed up that day, and nobody was getting in the end zone.
Yeah.
This is not that. This is Brian's first L.
Bo Nix ran the ball 2 times for -3 yards. That is a bit of a concern, obviously.
That's the game, right?
That's the game.
We've talked about that 100 times. If you let Bo Nix loose, it's really hard to beat them. I don't think you're going to beat them. If you bottle him up, they can't beat you.
What I'm shocked about is the fact that they did not even try to run Bo Nix. Like, that has been a big part of their offense, and they didn't do anything with it. Tank Bigsby, 16 carries, 41 yards. Johnson had 1 carry for 57 yards and a touchdown. Tank had 2 touchdowns, by the way. Jacquez Hunter had 4 carries for 12 yards. They couldn't really get it done on the ground. Bo had success, especially early. He was 27 out of 41, 377 yards, 2 touchdowns. But Will Rogers, my friend, when he got cooking, 44 out of 55 passing for 415 yards and 6 touchdowns, and they did it on the Plains. Just unbelievable what they did. They outscored them 33-6 in the second half.
Lane Kiffin said it best. That's the best offensive mind in college football.
Yes. Like, I swear to God, who is the USC quarterback?
It drives me insane. Drives me insane because I've been saying it for a decade, and people called me ridiculous. Lane comes out and says it, and everybody believes him.
Hold on. What's the Matt Leinart? Matt Leinart, the quarterback from USC that's on the Fox whatever thing. He came out last night during the Ole Miss game and said, hey, looks like it's likely Ole Miss is going to go 10-2. What a year for Kiffin in Oxford or whatever. And I retweeted it and I said, let's pump the brakes on just chalking up W's. You always tell me this, and I am just as guilty of it as anybody else on this planet because I look at schedules and I'm like, oh, yeah, they're going to beat so-and-so and so-and-so and da-da-da-da. But you still got to go to Starkville on Thanksgiving.
That's going to be an amazing – this might be the greatest Egg Bowl we've seen in a long time.
You're probably right. Last year was pretty good.
I'm going to tell you this. The nation better watch. This better be the #1 rated football game in the country. It just, everybody is sitting at home. You're going to be in your meat coma. You get a damn TV on. Don't worry about the NFL game. This is going to be the game you're going to want to watch.
Out of 44 completions for Rodgers, by the way, they had 10 different guys catch passes. And none of them.
This is Mike Leach's offense.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. None of them got to 100 yards.
One time in the history of Mike Leach has he had a monster receiver, and that team made it to number 1 in the country.
Yeah. Michael Crabtree.
That was a Crabtree year. Yep.
Whew, gracious. All right, so Mississippi State gets it done. Post-game win expectancy was only 59% for Mississippi State, but I mean, they were down 28-3. So
they were down. They were down 25 points.
Exactly. And they were on the road, so getting it done on the road at Auburn like this, I still cannot believe.
Hang on. I've said for all year they're going to finish with the weirdest resume in college football. Let me tell you this: they have twice as many wins over top 25 teams as they do over unranked teams. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane?
How did this team lose to LSU in Memphis? I don't get it.
Twice as many wins over ranked opponents as they do over unranked opponents. I've said it for 3 weeks. They're going to have the weirdest resume in all of college football when the season's over with.
Yes. Derek jumped in, by the way, said, Chris, should I really get my popcorn ready?
I think so.
Probably so.
I think so.
Probably so.
Well, here's the thing. It's Thanksgiving. If you're eating popcorn in the evening of Thanksgiving, that you've done this all wrong. You've done it. You spent the entire day wrong, and you need to reevaluate your life. If you don't have somebody making you Thanksgiving dinner, I would say give me a call, but I'm not going to be around. You find some friends and go mooch off of them. You can't eat popcorn for Thanksgiving.
Wake Forest 45, NC State 42. Post-game win expectancy, Wake Forest 76%. Wake can win the Atlantic by beating either Clemson or BC. If you lose both, Clemson is going to go. Bottom line. Like that's it, and I cannot believe that we're at this point in the season where Clemson is still a viable option. And yet, I mean, that defense is still really, really damn good. But you start looking at some of these numbers. NC State outgained Wake Forest last night, 482 to 406. But, 3 turnovers for NC State that ended up turning into 7 points. 3 turnovers for Wake that turned into no points. I mean, that's the difference in the ballgame. So you look at some of these numbers, rushing yards, NC State was only able to muster up 74 rushing yards on that Wake Forest defense. They threw for 408. Now, a lot of this was late. The biggest difference in this game is the hidden yardage. The hidden yardage was penalties this time. 14 penalties for 119 yards against NC State. Wake had 5 for 50. Again, difference in the ballgame. Like
Wake just doesn't beat themselves ever. I was so disappointed they didn't get to 50. You have no idea how bad I wanted them to get to 50.
When they started scoring late again, I was like, son of a bitch, he's gonna nail this on the head. And
they still blew the over out. The total was 61.5. What are we doing? Like, when are the books gonna have the balls to give us an 80 or 90 point total with this team? Are they ever gonna do it?
I doubt it. Because maybe against Boston College, maybe. But I doubt it.
That's just the freest money in all the land. It's just hammer over, hammer over, hammer over. They're hitting the overs by halftime.
Yeah.
Now they didn't have it by halftime in this game, but they had it. Holy shit! I just lost my camera. They did have it. But they did have it. I'm still with you guys. They did. There we go. I did have it by like early in the third quarter.
Yes. Very, very early.
It was never in doubt. Like at halftime, I fully understood this was ball game.
Yes. Sam Hartman.
The over was the total.
Sam Hartman. I love Sam Hartman. I love what he does. But in this game,
it's really good.
20 out of 47. That ain't great. 43% completion percentage. Had 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and still his QBR was over 100. 102.7. Like sometimes these numbers don't make sense, but look at what he was able to do.
This is the best defense they've played all year.
Oh, by far.
And we talked about that in the preview of this game. This was going to be the best defense Wake's played all year.
Yes. Devin Leary on the other side, 37 out of 59, 408 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
This might be the softest defense he plays all year, and didn't work out well for him.
Yeah.
Still.
I mean, they still put up 42 points, but
yeah. But you know what? If he doesn't turn the football over, they probably win this game, though.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. I mean, because they got 3 turnovers off Wake Forest. Like, if they had been able to capitalize on even one of them, then they win. Fine. Like, they win the game if they capitalize on one of them.
That's the difference in the game.
Yeah. Yes. In Derek Miller, we see your quote there. Brown Yeti said next year State's going to be a monster. Derek said he was just quoting Lane, and then Alabama.
Yeah, I got that.
We got it. We got the popcorn reference.
Just don't eat popcorn for Thanksgiving.
That's 100%.
I'll just be the fat guy in me will be very disappointed in you.
Wake Forest did have 8 tackles for loss in this game. So like we talk about their offense all the time. That defense is not great, but they are aggressive.
Their defensive line, their front. I won't want to say front 7 because I don't think they have 7 dudes that are good, but they've got 4, but they're just not all D linemen. They'll get after you.
Yes, and they're very aggressive.
But that's the thing, like, because they score 50 every game, they don't have to stop you every drive. They just need a stop here or a stop there. That's all they need.
Yes.
That one extra possession is the difference in so many of these games. And that's all it took in this game. When they lost the turnover battle, I thought, shit, that's going to be it. But they got a stop when they needed to get a stop. They got the extra score when they need to get the extra score. I never worry about them being able to get the extra score. Never.
Right.
It was the getting the stops when you've turned the ball over and given them the extra possessions that I worried about.
Yeah. Yeah, you were not wrong about that. NC State did miss a field goal early in this, but at the same time,
that would have gotten them the cover, wouldn't it? That would have made this a 1-point win.
No, I mean it was 45-42. So I mean that would have made it.
That wouldn't have changed anything at all because it was 1.5 line. Right?
On the same token, Wake Forest did, of course, have like a missed field, whatever. Like they did not hit a field goal when they attempted it in the second quarter. So.
You think somebody's going to snack up Clawson?
I think so. I think so. I will tell you this. It all depends on his mindset. Like he has got a cush job at Wake Forest.
Oh, I completely agree with that, by the way.
So, and I think the mentality of coaches has changed. Like if he feels like
and if the Lee Corsos of the world have their way, all you have to do is win the ACC and you get in the playoffs.
Well, it's not just the Lee Corsos. It's also
I know that.
All the commissioners.
That's just shocked. It's not just the Lees. It's all of the people that run college football, because it doesn't matter who you play. If your brand is big enough, then we just assume you're better. We say you're better enough. See, so I'm going to go on a little rant here. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's a big Mississippi State fan. Well, so we understand the biases. And he talked about how he's so sick of hearing that the Grove is the greatest tailgate place in the country. And I said, well, here's how you get that. Because I've been to the Grove many, many, many times, and I've never had a bad time at the Grove. But I don't know that it's the best tailgate I've ever seen or had, but the problem is you're told that it's the best over and over and over again. And then you go there and you have a good time, and so you assume, well, it's got to be the best. But then you start breaking it down. Every meal I've ever had in the Grove has been nothing but just like cold Abner's chicken. And I'm thinking, you know what? Like that might be some of the shittiest food I've ever had. And what? So, because nobody cooks out, you don't ever have, because they won't let you have fire. They won't let you have your grills and stuff there. So it's just a bunch of tents with a ton of people crammed into a beautiful area when all those tents are not there. It's a lot like Disney World. It'd probably be a hell of a lot different or better if you just made half these people leave.
Yeah, you're probably right. How did we get on that?
It's just a matter of if you say something enough, we just assume that it's true because nobody. I mean, it's the definition of gaslighting.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
But we're talking about. We still use words like the Power Five, and even though I hate that concept, I despise it, and I have for years. I still use it because it's the way everybody else understands what I'm trying to say. And so I have to change my terminology and things that I don't agree with to have a conversation with people in a way that they understand it.
Yeah, okay. I understand exactly where you're coming from.
But that's a problem because the ACC does not deserve to be considered power anything right now. The Pac-12 does not consider to be power anything right now.
The most likely ACC championship game right now will be played in Charlotte, North Carolina, between Wake Forest and Pittsburgh. And you're telling me
it's going to be amazing. I would tell you this. That's what we deserve, by the way.
Oh, it's going to be a great game.
It's going to be an amazing game. That's the game we all deserve. And if Wake does somehow lose out and they miss out on that, it's the kick in the nuts at the end of college football that we don't want.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. Like I had so Parker texted me yesterday and was talking about chaos because we were talking about the fact that Alabama could end up winning the SEC West without ever having to play the Auburn game. Like they can wrap it up against Arkansas next week. And he said,
thanks to the state of Mississippi last night.
He said it's just complete chaos. And I said, yeah, with the least chaotic ending. Like if we end up with Clemson winning the ACC and Alabama or Georgia winning the SEC and Ohio State winning the Big Ten, like this, I don't know that that's what anybody necessarily wants other than TV networks. Like that's it. It's a little bit frustrating.
If all of that happens, we cannot compare it to 2007.
No, it won't be anything like 2007 at that point.
It was just a wild year that ended up chalk.
Well, in 2007, still kind of ended up chalk. I mean, remember it was Ohio State and LSU playing for the national title. Like it was just the way that we got there.
LSU
in November
wasn't preseason ranked number 1 or 2 in the country.
Yeah, they were way up there. They were like at least top 3, and I think they were actually.
I don't remember that. I thought I knew they were top 5, but I don't remember they were 1 or 2.
So, but they had been number 1 basically all season, but they had the 2 losses in overtime, and it took a whole lot of other
undefeated in regulation.
Yeah, November was chaos. November was crazy that season. Hopefully we will get that again this season. I would love to see it. Rolling through some of these other games right quick. We're not going to be able to spend long on them.
Let's just go fast.
Purdue 31, Ohio State 59. Ohio State's postgame win expectancy was 100%. Ohio State rang up 624 yards of offense on that Purdue defense. 361 passing, 263 rushing. Mayan Williams ran 14 times for 117 yards. Travion Henderson, 13 carries for 98 yards. They were awesome. Garrett Wilson had a rush for 51 yards. That was awesome. He had 126 yards on 10 receptions, did Garrett Wilson. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 9 receptions, 139 yards, a touchdown. Chris Olave, 9 receptions, 85 yards. Like this Ohio State offense started clicking early. And we talked about this game a little bit about how the line looked a little crazy, and that's when you got to go the other direction because, again, like Purdue came off of a massive win last week, and can you do it 2 weeks in a row, especially when you're going on the road?
This ain't one of those crazy lines, Gary. I looked at it yesterday. 91% of the bets were on Ohio State.
Yeah. Yeah. It's but because
that's not the line looks crazy go the other way.
I am a little shocked that it was 91%.
It was 91% yesterday morning.
That's crazy. There were so many national media people that were taking Purdue in this spot. Like, they're going to hang in this.
None of those people actually make bets.
David Bell, by the way, 11 receptions, 103 yards. He did not have a touchdown. Milton Wright did. He was 7 receptions, 98 yards, and 1 touchdown. They couldn't run the football. Purdue could not, and that was it. Derek Miller said, sorry, guys, these schools recruit the best kids. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and others. That's just how it is. Yeah, it is. Like, it is. But that's the reason why football is in the state that it is.
But that's, again, another self-fulfilling prophecy. We say all the time they're the best schools, so all the best players go to the best schools.
Yes. It's switched over. Excuse me. Do you have any thoughts on Ohio State, Purdue?
Yeah, this game ended when Purdue was driving the football on them like nobody's business, doing exactly what they should do, take advantage of this Swiss cheese secondary, and then they tried to get cute and run some weird option trick play reverse, fumble the football. Ohio State got it, ball game. Ohio State's now up by 3 scores, and it's never close again.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
was a weird play call.
Trick plays when your standard offense is cutting them up like Swiss cheese.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's what Braum does, right? Like,
no. That's what you do when you're playing teams where you can't run your offense. But when your base offense is getting 5 to 9 yards of play, stop running. You don't run trick plays then. You damn sure don't run reverses that aren't going to get you more than 5 to 9 yards. Okay?
Agreed.
If you want to run a trick play, you do something that's deep and down the field that you're trying to take the top off the defense.
Ohio State, on the other side, did look really, really good. They took advantage
frustrating.
Yeah.
And that's where the game – because it was 14-7, and if you score there and you make it 14-14, this is just a game where it's boom, boom, boom. It's the ping pong game that we thought it was going to be. But as soon as you get down 3, because the very next play after that, they rush the ball for 61 yards and a touchdown. One play, 60 yards, boom, touchdown. And now it's a 3-score game, and now you're completely out of your offense. Now you throw the script completely out of the window, which I don't know why you ever did that, because your base offense can cut them to pieces because their secondary cannot tackle an open field.
Yeah, you're right. It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
That was frustrating. That was angering to watch.
But for Ohio State, this is one of those. Derek said, "Sorry, Chris, no excuses, just results. Ohio State came to play." Yeah, they did. They took advantage of mistakes that were made by Purdue. And here's the thing: Ohio State.
Well, they're so much better than Purdue. Purdue's got to play a perfect football game to hang in that game.
Ohio State is going to have these kind of games, right? They are going to look fantastic some weeks, and they are going to look like complete garbage some weeks. And it's just trying to figure out what weekend they're going to do that, right?
But the problem is they should never look like garbage when you look at the talent that's on that field.
Agreed. Good gracious. Georgia 41, Tennessee 17. Post-game win expectancy, Georgia 97%. And Tennessee had them on the ropes early. That tempo really got to Georgia, I think. You look at some of the numbers here, like Hendon Hooker had a really good day against them. 24 out of 37, 244 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Tennessee couldn't run the football. And that's how Tennessee typically gets their offense going, is running the football. And they started out early not having to worry with it because they knew that the way to get them to ease up on the run was hit them over the top, hit them across the middle, find ways to get playmakers the ball. Cedric Tillman for Tennessee, by the way, 10 receptions, 200 yards receiving, and had 1 touchdown. On the other side, James Cook, 10 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 3 receptions for 43 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Georgia ran the football for 274 yards on 41 carries. That's 6.7 a clip. They had 4 touchdowns. That way, Stetson was fine. 17 out of 29, 213 yards, 1 touchdown. Didn't have to really do anything.
Well, no. Tennessee started off awesome. Tennessee, their offense scored first drive. They were averaging 5 yards a play. It was they could get a first, and they were running the football down their throat, by the way. They were getting 5 yards a rush every time they ran the football. And they drove the ball right down their throat.
Yes.
And after the first 2 drives, 3 drives really, because the first drive resulted in 0 points. After their first 3 drives, it all went away.
Derek Miller said, "Look at every game Georgia has played, waiting on you to make a mistake. When you do, it's game over." Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
That's it. Tennessee looked really good the first 3 drives, and then they threw the pick, and then it was over.
Yes, 100%. But Tennessee did have them on the ropes early. They showed somewhat of a blueprint that you could try and take advantage of. It's just, can you do it the entire ball game? And I don't know that anybody is capable of doing that for an entire ball game. So,
not against that defense, I don't.
Nope, not at all. Next game.
It also didn't help that after the first 3 drives, Tennessee, I think, had 4 different starters offensively get carted off or go off to the locker room.
Yeah.
That when you're Tennessee, you definitely can't lose 4 starters, and their offense never looked the same the rest of the game.
True.
Like that's not making excuses and not saying that they could have beaten Georgia or whatever. I'm just saying it. You don't have the depth or the talent to be able to lose 4 starters against that team.
Agreed. And they were already hurting on depth anyway. So it didn't help in this situation. Texas Tech 41, Iowa State 38. What a fabulous football game. I found myself glued to this game for a long time. Brock Purdy, 32 out of 42 passing, 356 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions.
That's what he's got to get better at.
Breece Hall. I mean, what the hell are we doing here? Like, Texas Tech's defense is not. This ain't the 85 Bears here. Like
they just made up their mind they weren't going to let Breece beat them. They were going to put the ball in Brock's hands, and Brock played really well, but he didn't play well enough, and their defense didn't play good at all. This is a game. This is a team where you thought Matt Campbell's supposed to be able to be a good defensive coach.
Well, I mean, he's not a defensive guy, but he's established a really strong culture. He's got a good defensive staff.
I was about to say he built this team from a defensive perspective, not an offensive perspective, though.
Right. This was, and on defense they were trash. I mean, they gave up 529 yards to Texas Tech with a. Are we going to call him a backup, or is he like the new starter? I don't know. The kid Smith, Donovan Smith. He's a freshman quarterback. 25 out of 32, 322 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he also ran the ball 14 times for 50 yards, 529 yards, 322 of which were passing, 207 yards on the ground for Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ball game right there. Like
that's it. Unbelievable game for Texas Tech. Weird, inexplainable game for Iowa State. Is this a thing where we're just going to see a pattern here of teams looking? They all think Oklahoma's beatable, and if you beat Oklahoma, it brings donors out of the woodworks. And so we're just going to overlook the week beforehand so we can show up and play. If they beat Oklahoma, this is just a new path. Is because losing at Texas Tech doesn't cost Iowa State a nickel. But beating Oklahoma makes you millions of dollars with the extra donor money that just comes pouring in.
Yes. This
is exactly what Baylor did, by the way. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know what the number is going to be. I'll be betting Iowa State against Oklahoma next week. And I know that's at Oklahoma. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think they were looking ahead towards Oklahoma. They think Oklahoma's gettable. And they said, hey, let's worry about getting them. We think we could beat Texas Tech without practice. Baylor thought they could beat TCU without practice, and it didn't work out. But guess what? If you told me you can lose to TCU but beat Oklahoma, every team in the Big 12 would take it.
I agree.
Even TCU.
Garibay, by the way.
Can't believe that wasn't a record. I just can't believe that wasn't a record.
Let's start off with this first, because they don't win this game without the first field goal, which was at the end of the first half. And he hit it from 45. He had 2 field goals on the day.
Right.
A 45-yarder at the end of the first half with no time
45
left.
Is big in college football.
Yes.
45 is big. It's not unheard of. 62?
62 to close the game.
Nope. Nobody even attempts that.
He did not hit a field goal with time left on the clock in either half. It's pretty awesome.
Listen, hang on. The 69-yarder was not 21 or 1921 or whatever. It was 1976, and it was from Abilene Christian.
So that wasn't even FBS.
It wasn't even FBS.
That's just ridiculous. But 62, like, props.
Well, the FBS wasn't a thing in 1976.
Agreed.
Also.
Agreed. Tyrone Davis jumped in and said, "Let's go Baylor." Yeah, 100%. 100%.
That's amazing.
Florida State 31. And which, by the way, you called this Miami 28.
Hey, I got a question. And I was going to talk about this on my SBR show, but since like tens of people watch it now that it's only on the Twitter, I want to have this conversation here. I think the state of Florida should do what the city of Boston does for college hockey, which is called the Bean Pot, which is they take like 3 weeks off during the off season and they all play each other. You have Harvard and you have Boston University and you have 4 or 5, and they're always ranked in like the top, 25 of college hockey, all 4 of these schools, and they're all in the small city of Boston, and they play what's called the Bean Pot. It's a round robin tournament. I think the state of Florida should have this for football, and I don't know who the best team in Florida is right now.
Oh, I've got no idea.
I will tell you this. I probably would put my money on UCF.
UCF kind of got smoked by SMU yesterday.
I understand that. Who would you put your money on then?
Right this second, I'd probably put it on Florida State because I think they could beat everybody else in the state.
I trust Norvell probably more than all the coaches in there.
Yeah, I don't think give me Dylan Gabriel at UCF, and I can see where you're coming from. Without Dylan Gabriel,
with Dylan Gabriel, it's a runaway. Like it ain't close.
Yes.
But that would be interesting. I'll take the 4 biggest schools in the state. I'd like to see them play a round robin tournament. And I'm going to tell you, it's a Yahtzee Cup, man. I bet if you played that tournament 100 times, you'd get a different team win.
Probably so. So Florida State wins this one, and the post-game win expectancy number shocked me in this one.
Yeah.
91% for Florida State, and that's even with them having to come back and score the touchdown late to win.
I know they had to come back. They dominated this game, though.
Yes, they did. Absolutely did. Miami should really not have – I'm not going to say they shouldn't have been in the game, but it didn't feel like they deserved to be there at the end. Like,
I don't think they did. I don't think they did. I don't think they played a good game at all.
No, it was 20-7 at the end of the first half. It was 20-14 at the end of the third quarter, and then Miami came out, started doing some stuff, like found a way to, they figured something out, and then Florida State was able to get it done late. The late touchdown drive for Florida State, 7 plays, 80 yards, and got the touchdown. It was only a minute 53 that went off the clock, so they were able to move the football. Yards per play, Florida State 5.9 to 5.1. In the red zone, Florida State was 6 of 6 scoring. Miami only 3 of 3. Time of possession was big on Florida State, 36 minutes and 9 seconds to 23:51. 3 turnovers that led to 7 points for Miami, and then 1 turnover that led to 7 points for Florida State. So basically, the difference there was the time of possession, which, Miami gave them the ball 3 times. Like, they were only able to score 7 points, but when you don't have the football, it's kind of hard to score. So, this was an interesting game. Third downs, Florida State could do nothing. They were 3 of 15, but they did go 2 of 2 on fourth down. Miami went 4 of 4 on fourth down, and Miami was 6 of 16 on third down on it. But Miami could not run the football. 43 yards rushing in this game on 23 carries. That's only 1.9 a clip. On the other side, like Florida State, 48 carries, 160 yards. They were going to run the football. It was only 3.3 per clip, but this was awesome. Like, Florida State, this could actually get Manny Diaz fired. Like, he had built up such goodwill. I'm really curious.
I thought all that goodwill was fraud.
That's kind of what it seems like, because as soon as you get a loss, like, once you're on the hot seat, you're on the hot seat forever. So
because the problem is that offense was never really actually good. Like, I just think they were playing shit teams. Look at the ACC. Look at their opponents. There's not a good defense outside of Clemson has a good defense. NC State has a good defense. That's it. That's the list. Nobody is great in this conference at defense. And so, your offense looked pretty good for 3 weeks. But against crap opponents.
Yeah, and if you can't, and it's not that Florida State has a good defense. It's like, if you have an off day.
Florida State does not have a good defense.
No, if you have an off game,
you couldn't score against them.
Obviously, you won't be able to beat them if you have an off game. Tyler Van Dyke, 25 out of 47. That's only 53% completion percentage. 316 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception here. They were not able to get it done. Florida State drove the field, and that was a program-defining drive, I think. Like, I feel like that
good for Norvell.
Yes.
I thought Mike Norvell was just on the come up. I just thought this team is getting better every week. They were not good before the season started. They were not good in the middle of the season. We are at the end of the season, and this team is getting better every week. That's a sign of coaching. Same guys playing that were at the beginning of the year. It's just they're learning the system. They're learning the program. They're getting more comfortable in the offense. They're getting more comfortable with the defensive scheming. And I just think they're getting better every week. Doesn't mean they're good. Doesn't mean they're there by any stretch. But they are substantially better than they were when the season started. We got a little SEC conversation going on.
Yeah, I'm seeing this.
I've got an opinion about Oklahoma and Texas coming into the. See, I don't want to refund them for anybody else.
Well, hold on. Before you jump into it, let me actually read the comment for the people that are on the podcast and whatnot. Elvin Gully jumped in. Can we refund Texas for Oklahoma State or Baylor? Horns aren't SEC caliber. And Ball Python Love said, I can't wait for Oklahoma to go to the SEC. I don't see them being good with better teams. Tyrone Davis said the same thing. Python, I don't think they can hang. Ball Python Love said, I don't either. Bad move for Oklahoma and Texas.
So let me tell you what I like about this. See here, this is the SEC being smarter than everybody else. We love brands in college football. We as a collective, because do not care about your brand at all. So college football is going to think the SEC just got a lot better because he brought them in. And then the middling teams in the SEC are going to beat big brands like Oklahoma and Texas, and we're going to get more teams bowl eligible because we need more wins. And those teams are going to continue to be trash, but because they're really big schools and they have a lot of money and they have big historic fan bases, it's always going to be seen as a good win. And so now teams that probably don't deserve to be bowl eligible are going to get bowl eligible, which means more bowl teams, more money for your conference. That's a good thing.
Yes, 100%. That was my thought exactly. Arkansas's win over Texas, people still hype that win up, and
right.
Texas is a bad football team.
And Arkansas is going to go bowling because of wins like that.
Yes, 100%. Iowa 27, Minnesota 22. Obviously, we don't have to spend long on this one, but I thought that there was a world where Iowa might not win this game. Spencer Petras was out in this one, and Alex Padilla, 11 of 24 for 204 yards and 2 touchdowns. 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's a ridiculous, yards per completion percentage there. I mean, it's almost 20 yards per completion. They just hit chunk plays. They were able to. They only ran 49 plays. By the way, Minnesota ran 83. When I looked at this box score, because I'm not going to lie, I had it on one of my TVs. I don't know how many times I actually looked over other than to just check the score, because every time I watched, it looked boring and bland, and Minnesota had the ball almost the entire time. I mean, they had over 40 minutes time of possession, and Iowa still found a way to win the football game.
With almost no points to show for it.
Yeah.
I didn't watch a single second of this game because of that very reason. There were too many other games that were on that were good, and this game just did not matter.
So, of course, we had to hit on it because Iowa's still in a position to maybe win the West if they can get Wisconsin beat. I don't think Wisconsin's going to get beat.
What does Wisconsin's schedule look like, man? I don't think Wisconsin's losing again.
I do not have it pulled up, but I can pull it up right now. Here we go. Wisconsin has got Nebraska and at Minnesota. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities, but more than likely they won't be losing. But if they do, Iowa is sitting right there, ready to roll. This was a tight game, but at the end of the day, like, Iowa being able to win by running half as many plays as Minnesota, just kind of shocking. Well,
when you're a bad offense already and you're playing with your backup quarterback, which you assume makes your offense worse, that's important to be able to win with half the plays.
And you
don't
didn't
want
get
that
a turnover
guy on the field very much at all.
You never got a turnover for Minnesota, and that's how Iowa has typically won. The only turnover in this game led to 3 points for Minnesota. So, it is what it is. Brown Yeti said, I think it helps Norvell, and he said, I don't know how to spell his name. It's Norvel. Or LL, excuse me. Let's see, that there isn't another Florida team with 7 wins this season. Well, yeah, he can certainly get Mullen fired at the end of the year. Like, that'll almost certainly happen if they decide to whip Florida. That could really be the end of it for Mullen. Gary Lewis jumped in for fun and gun on a different platform. Someone wrote 21 FSU will hit the trifecta by getting 3 different head coaches fired, and then he brought up Diaz and Mullen. Yeah. I mean, it's entirely possible. And Big Ten fans who early in 21 claimed lowly Fresno State is not on par with Minnesota are very wrong. Wonder which team is higher in SP Plus and in other key metrics. Fresno State has bad run D, but Minnesota pass D blows. I'm not going to argue with that. There's no way to argue with that. So Fresno State's good, but they ain't great. They're not great. Elvin Gully, Arkansas would have the same record as Cincinnati or any other G5 with those pathetic schedules. I don't know that Arkansas could win.
Arkansas is not going on the road to Notre Dame and beat Notre Dame. Agreed.
Now, everybody else that Cincinnati plays, yeah, Arkansas could beat them. Yes.
That's fine. But that you can't just everybody else that. That's a big win that nobody else in the country has.
Agreed. Last game I want to bring up here to get us out of here. Arkansas 16, LSU 13. And I only bring it up because it was a hell of a ball game. LSU's post-game win expectancy was actually 59% in this game. The LSU defense held the Hogs to a field goal in the first half and 6 punts. And to do that against that offense was awesome. Just awesome. The LSU defense showed up in the spot. Neither team could do anything in the red zone. It felt like, it was just, or couldn't even get to the red zone. How's that? Because Arkansas only got there one time, and they scored a touchdown. LSU got there twice, and they scored on one of them, right? Like, I'm so curious what LSU is going to look like with a new head coach, because they have got talent. They have got the dudes, and the defense has come along and has looked much better. Switching up, like Ed O said, like after the Alabama game, he said we installed 8 new defensive looks before the Alabama game. And it has completely tricked Alabama, and it has completely tricked Arkansas, and both of those offenses are used to putting up 30, 40, 50 points in ball games. And, LSU broke Alabama's streak of scoring 31 points in what was it, like 30-some-odd games in a row? It went back like 3 years. And LSU's good. Gary Lewis jumps in. LSU's not quitting. Credit to the players. Yes. Like, this is crazy. Kerry B jumped in. LSU versus Arkansas. Arkansas defense played well. They held LSU to the fewest points since 1906. KJ Jefferson, that's not true. Maybe the fewest points in Death Valley since 1906. KJ Jefferson no, that's not true either. Oh, yeah, the fewest points for Arkansas, I bet. I was like, because they've been shut out multiple times in Baton Rouge and everything else. So it had to be Arkansas. KJ Jefferson for the next Heisman, and in Arkansas 7-3 is Sam Pittman Coach of the Year. No, he's not Coach of the Year. He's done a really good job with this team.
He's in the conversation.
He's certainly, yeah.
If you were going to a place to get an award, he would be a finalist that would get to go to the trip.
Yes. What do you think about Garrett Nussmeier? Like, 18 out of 31 passing, 179 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks.
LSU's quarterback next year is not on the roster.
I kind of thought the same thing.
Okay.
Like, Max Johnson.
My thoughts on Nussmeier are irrelevant. I think Nussmeier is head and shoulders better than Max Johnson right now. It ain't even close.
The overtime sack that he took.
No, bad.
That was very much a freshman mistake.
Yes, but the thing is the first half touchdown where he just runs around, scrambles, turns, launches the football like it just exploded out of a rifle, and then you had if it was Alabama, everyone would have called it the Devontae Smith catch because it was the exact same thing, but nobody cared because it was LSU and they're not very good. That was unbelievable, and we don't have a quarterback on the roster that has that arm talent other than him. True.
This was a strange.
I'll tell you this: I believe with all my heart, if he would have played in the Alabama game, we beat Bama.
I don't disagree with that.
All we needed was 1 or 2 big plays the entire game. That's it. He's not going to make more mistakes than Mac Johnson made.
Yeah. No,
you're right. We
just
needed 1 or 2 big plays, and that game's over with.
Yes. The difference in this ball game, by the way, was LSU turnovers. 3 of them for LSU, 0 for Arkansas.
No, he's still going to turn the football over. He's a freshman quarterback that's not – and here's the thing. He's not great. That's fine. Our coaches that are there to develop him aren't great. Our offensive scheme, not great. Our offensive line, not very good at all. So it's tough. We don't have great wide receivers playing right now, and he doesn't have a lot of benefits of anything, but he's also not great. It's okay.
Yes. Arkansas running the football, which is typically their bread and butter. 40 attempts, only 139 yards, 3.5 a clip on this. KJ Jefferson, 15 for 41. Johnson was 14 for 39. This was a tightly contested ball game. Only 308 total yards for LSU, 281 for Arkansas, and it came down to who made the mistakes.
Yeah, turnovers, and that's what Arkansas is really good at. LSU's good at turning the ball over, and Arkansas is good at taking them away. I also thought that this is a dead-ass year for LSU. Okay, like this year doesn't matter. We've already fired our coach. We're playing spoiler, and we're just trying to work hard, and these players are working their ass off. They want to win every game, winning out. And that's important. This is actually a big win for Arkansas. Arkansas needs this more than them. There was no doubt when we went into overtime I didn't like that because and there was a reason Sam Pittman was perfectly comfortable going into overtime because he thought, oh, we can win this thing in overtime. If we get this thing in regulation and chaos happens, then LSU could take this from us. But they were not afraid at all of going overtime, not one little bit, because they believe they're the better football team. I think they're the better football team. And this is bigger for them in that this season than that would have just been another win for LSU, and it would have been another reason for people to call Arkansas frauds if Arkansas loses that game. But if you look at Arkansas' schedule and you look at their resume, they're much better than anybody thought they were. If you lose to LSU, people just assume those wins earlier don't matter.
Yeah, you're right. Gary Lewis, I knew the young Nussmeier would be pretty good at quarterback. I'm so old, I followed his dad's college and NFL playing, not coaching career. Yeah. No, where was he? Was he Idaho? Was he? Where I
don't remember where he went to college at. I know he's the quarterbacks coach at Dallas right now.
See. Here we go. Gary. Oh, Nussmeier, decent passing college football quarterback, as was his dad. Early '90s at the University of Idaho. That's what it was.
Yeah, it's Idaho.
Yep. Yeah. No. We've got some more discussion about the SEC, about people saying that Arkansas is going to handle BYU and Cincinnati next year. Elvin said this isn't the Pac-12. Let's see. Captain Genius expand playoffs, mostly eliminate committees, no guesswork or opinion polls. Problem solved. AMAC said Greg Sankey called. He wants his invitation back. Look on the bright side. Texas Conference USA is looking for a few teams. Again, why would you give up Texas if you know that you can beat them and they're going to bring more money to the conference? Like, there you go.
Yep. Leave the check, take the ass whooping.
You got it. All right, there's a bunch of other stuff that happened in the sport. San Diego State, congratulations on a 23-21 win over Nevada. Louisville, massive win. I didn't even think about the fact that it was Lamar's jersey retirement ceremony. So, of course, they were going to beat Syracuse like a drum, 41-3. East Carolina beat Memphis in overtime.
That's a dead-ass team.
30-29 there.
You going to work Monday? You going to push Silverfield out a window for me?
Well, I won't be on that side of campus, but, you know.
You can drive over there. You know where his office is. Just give him a little nudge towards the window.
They'll find something to do there. Pitt with a big win over North Carolina on Thursday. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but 30-23, that rainstorm when North Carolina took the field in overtime was the most like, hey, God saying, I want Pitt to win this ball game that I have ever seen in my life. I've never seen that. Georgia State beat Coastal Carolina. Now, don't get me wrong, Grayson McCall has been out. He was out for this game. But the fact that Coastal actually, lost the game, we're not quite used to that. Florida over Samford. We could have spent an hour on Dan Mullen and that defense and whatnot. 70-52 was the final there. UTSA struggled with Southern Miss, but, whatever. Oregon got the 14-point push against Washington State. Utah State, massive win. We talked about that earlier. And then Oklahoma State and TCU, just a bludgeoning. Is there anything else that we need to discuss?
Nope, that's it.
That is it. All right, let's get out of here. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you for jumping in the chat. We had a whole bunch of people in the chat today, and we cannot tell you how much we appreciate you. Thank you for being here with us every single week. We enjoy this. It's my favorite hour and a half to 2 hours of the week. Just recapping, rehashing, no filter, having fun, talking about college football. So head over to winningcureseverything.com. Make sure make sure that you do subscribe everywhere that you need to subscribe, and leave a nice 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts. Jump into the comments, jump in the chat. We're trying to get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers. We are getting close. We're less than 200 away, like 160-something away. So make sure and subscribe and share the show out. Tell your friends about it. BetUS brings you the show every week. NCAAF 2021 is the promo code. 125% deposit bonus when you sign up with that promo code, up to $2,500, and it is sportsbook exclusive. So head over to BetUS where the game begins. Also, I do a college football show for BetUS. Chris does a college football show for Sportsbook Review. Make sure and check out both of those. There is a link in the description for them. Chris, I think that is going to cut it, my friend. For everybody out there, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and hopefully all of your NFL bets today hit for you. Thanks for checking out Winning Cures Everything. If you want to keep up with us, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Visit the website at winningcureseverything.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us at Winning Cures, at Gary WCE, or at Chris B. Giannini on Twitter. Share out the show, leave a nice review, and make sure to comment and tweet.